Hi folks, and welcome back to another Travels Red Rover. I'm Sean.
And I'm Corrine.
And we're out here doing something special today. What's that, Corrine?
Today we're going to take you along as we do one of our reconnoiter trips. We're getting prepared for the fall foliage season here in southern Utah. So we're tracking some locations where we might want to come back. We're checking the current health of the aspen groves, looking which areas are still green and which ones have a nice collection of aspens that will change color for us in a couple weeks' time.
So this is we actually really enjoy this. This is actually almost as much fun as out taking photographs. The only challenge we're going to have today is it's very, very windy.
Yep, but that should be okay. It'll still give us a good chance to scope out some future photo locations to come back to in a couple weeks.
So we hope you enjoy coming along with us today, and let's get started. So this week we're going to go to 3 locations. All of these locations are on the Cedar Breaks Mountain. We're very close to Cedar Breaks National Monument, somewhere between there and Duck Creek, or along Highway 14. So it's pretty easy to find most of these locations. In addition to actually showing you some of the locations, Corrine and I are going to talk a little bit about what we look for in a location and some of the tools that we use to basically map and locate these areas so that we can find them later on. So one of our first stops is about halfway up the mountain. We are a little bit east of Cedar City on Highway 14, and this location is called Kids Pond. There are a series of quite pretty cabins up on the other side, and the aspens are interspersed with pine trees. So you have both the real bright color of the aspens and the deep greens of the pine trees. The other thing too is if you happen to arrive here on a calm day, you can get some lovely reflection shots. So this is one of the areas that we like to start with. It's a mid-mountain area, so sometimes it doesn't color up quite as early as the higher parts of the mountain.
One of the tools we use when we're doing our reconnoiters is a smartphone app called Gaia GPS. And we use that to mark both camping locations where we might stay overnight in some boondock or forestry campgrounds. But we also use it to put a pin where we think there's a good photography location. We name it, it stores the GPS coordinates. We can organize the points that we mark into folders, and we can tag a photo to that location. So that lets us go back and get a preview of the scenery that we're going to get if we choose to go back there.
There's a path that goes right around the lake. It can be a little boggy in places, so a pair of boots might not be a bad idea, especially in the fall. And there are many, many compositions, both looking to the south, the west, and the east, so it's good at almost any time of the day. Corrine and I have taken one of the roads up into the Sage Valley area. This is actually the trailhead to Hancock Peak. And as you can see behind me, some of the trees are already starting to color up. Where if we walk over here and we look at the trees on this side, a little over here, they're still very, very green. So that's pretty normal for this area. Some start coloring a lot earlier than others, which gives you opportunities to have different compositions at different times of the year. So these are actually already starting to look fairly pretty. There's another grove that you may not be able to see very well, just back over here, that's already starting to go yellow-orange, which is really quite pretty. In fact, we might walk down there and take a few shots just because it's lovely. another favorite spot of ours is the Navajo Lake area. The whole lake is actually surrounded by beautiful aspens. But one of the nice spots to come is the trailhead for the Navajo Lake Loop Trail. It's also got a beautiful aspen stand, and it has a little bit more variety of young and old aspens. Also, it gives you the opportunity to shoot both along the trail and in the aspen trees, and also to shoot across the lake and get a water scene with aspens. So there are two trails, two parking spots into the Navajo Loop Trail. One on the east side, which is the first one you come to when you enter the lake area, and the one on the west side, which is one that you drive right around the lake. Green and I tend to prefer the one in the west because it leads into a much, what we consider to be a much nicer and younger aspen forest. The trees are just in beautiful shape, and the whole area is really quite lovely. One of the nice things about being up here on the mountain is that there's color all year round. Right now, just before we get into fall, autumn leaf color, we have these beautiful yellow plants that are growing all over the place. We also have a number of these actually really pretty purple plants as well that add a lot of color to the local area. Also, there's a pit toilet here, which is also a major consideration if you're going to be out all day. So one of the compositions that Karina and I are always looking for are these three tree combinations. They make a lovely starting point for a composition, and you can do all kinds of interesting things with them. If you got lots of color in behind the trees, you can frame the trees with the color. Sometimes you can create a really nice photograph with just the three trees coming up, forming the entire composition. So we're always looking for those. You need a somewhat more mature stand to see these a little better. And now sometimes what you can do is actually combine a multi-tree composition with a two-tree composition, as Kareen's kind of fooling around here doing. She's just taking some iPhone shots to remind us of the opportunities here when we come back a little later. So here's another grouping where we have aspen trees in the background. I often like to take just the aspen trunks, the nice bright white trunks with the eyes in them, and frame them up against a background of colored aspen. So this is another location that we would likely come back to. When you're in a little forest like this, one of the things you'll have a challenge with is as the daylight gets more and more either in the east or in the west, in the morning way in the east and in the afternoon way in the west, you're going to have to deal with shadows. And that's both a blessing and a curse. Sometimes the shadows can be really quite good to work with and can actually add some real interest in your shot. But sometimes they can just be a royal pain in the butt and really change some potentially great compositions into ones that just kind of don't work as a photograph. Another reason we like the mature aspen stands is that you have an opportunity to take these canopy shots where you can create a sunburst and the trees leading up into the colored canopy. These were taken while we were out wandering around on our little reconnoitering trip.
So the next stop on our reconnoiter today is Aspen Mirror Lake. When we drive from west to east, this is past the Duck Creek campground, but before you get to Duck Creek Village. Unfortunately, the signage for this turnoff is not very good at the moment from the west to east direction. I think the sign is good when you come the other direction from east to west. But it is before you get to the village, and it's past the Duck Creek Pond, where a lot of people will stop for some fishing. There's about a half-mile hike out to the lake, and it's a very beautiful hike through some fairly immature aspen groves, but then there's some bigger trees by the lake. So we're going to go check out how healthy those trees look and if they're still green.
The walk out to Aspen Mirror Lake is about a 10-minute walk from the parking lot. And you don't need to wait until you get to the lake to start your photography day. It could actually start in this beautiful little aspen grove that I'm walking through right here. There's also this very beautiful little bridge that you cross as you walk out to the lake, and it often is a subject in our photographs. Looking to the west, there is a really pretty little aspen grove that the creek runs along and through, and it can also form a basis for a lovely photograph. And then there's the lake itself. Aspen Mirror Lake is a gorgeous little lake almost any time of the year. The aspens are dispersed among the pine trees, and it's quite often you'll find that it's very calm up here. This not today, but usually. And you're able to take reflection shots of the aspen in the water. So this is the far end of the lake and a spot we often come to shoot reflection shots.
We've walked around to the northwest side of Aspen Mirror Lake. This area of the lake is a little bit more restricted, and when you have wind, it sometimes gets a little more calm surface on it so that you might get reflections in the morning. And right now we can see the distant trees on the opposite shore are mostly still green. The drawback from this vantage point is I have a very large stick right center in my photo, but I can pan a little bit to the right and get still a very good view of aspen trees there without including that stick. There's quite a bit of wind this afternoon, so I'm not going to get a reflection today, but it gives me a good chance to see the state of the trees.
So we've done 3 separate sites in this little reconnoitering trip and had a great time. But I was wondering, Kareen, if there's any sage words of advice that you can give after this little reconnoitering trip.
One thing that I like to do is find a location that gives me a lot of composition options, because you don't know what the lighting conditions are going to be like. So something like Aspen Mirror Lake is great if the sun's on the right angle and there's no wind, you can maybe get a reflection. But a spot like the Navajo Lake Loop Trail, that gives us a lot of potential.
It does. The other thing to keep in mind is that, at least in our part of the world here in southern Utah, the trees don't change color all at the same time. So it's really useful having a number of locations picked out, either so that you can go to each location as the color changes, or if for some reason you can't get back to one of the locations, you still have an alternative for when you can get back. Well, that brings this reconnoitering video to an end. We sure hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please give us a thumbs up.
And if you'd like to see more of our videos, hit the subscribe button down below. And our next video should include some of the actual aspen color from this location in a couple weeks' time.
Yep, and we're hoping we're going to get some great color and some great shots. So we've done the legwork. Now we just have to get nature to do its thing for us.
If you want to be notified when we put up videos, hit that notification bell down below.
That one. And we love to hear from you. So please leave a comment down below. We respond to all of them, and we really enjoy hearing from you.
If you want to know more about this location or you have some experience here, we'd love to hear about it.
Until next time, bye for now.
Bye for now.